So nice to meet you here, guys. Karolina, very nice to meet you here again, and Thijmen, very nice to meet you again after our recent podcast. And I'm very happy that you accepted this invitation, and I'm very happy to discuss with you about the gaps what startup companies they are suffering, because in Europe there are a lot of talented startup and entrepreneurs, but they never reach the visibility and the exit level. And in Asia there is a lot of capital, but these two never met. So I just would like to discuss with you and to find the main root cause why it's happening. But it's more important, I would like to discuss with you today that how we can help to these companies. Uniprism as a venture studio, PMK Group as a clinical validation and investment firm, how we can really support and change a bit this old-fashioned model and to make it a bit more effective. So starting with the very beginning, why is so difficult for the startup company to reach this visibility level when they can attract investors or any partners, not even investors, just any collaboration partners? What do you see based on your experience, which is really wide, that you have already in the past few decades? Why is so difficult if I'm a startup company, or even just not, I don't even have a company, I just am an entrepreneur with a very good idea. It could be a Nobel Prize or a unicorn company. Why is that happening with me? Why cannot reach any of these two?
Thanks for the invitation, first of all. Good to be back with you. And maybe today we can recap on our partnership and what we have achieved so far. And answering your question, we just lately learned with Thijmen about some statistics, which shows that 22% of the European university spin-offs are funded by venture capital, which means the rest don't even reach the level of becoming venture capital fundable, investment ready. So there's a huge gap. And when you think about it, it's also a huge opportunity, right? So if you fix what's missing, then Europe can really outperform even many other regions.
But I can expect this 22 seconds is there is a huge imbalance between Western Europe, Nordic countries, and Central Eastern Europe. So currently we are focusing in our collaboration on Central European countries and startups and entrepreneurs coming from these countries. I guess that this 22% is even much lower in these countries.
Yeah, indeed. And also what Karoly said, this 22% is really about getting from a proof of concept into a proper entity and defining actually the go-to-market, and not just how to spin it off from the university, but also how to get it ready actually for the commercial market. I think that's also where the key difference is in this.
So the other aspect, like we are talking about signals from the market, yeah? And we are trying to understand the patterns, what's happening. And one of the things that is a very strong signal is that the European Union has assembled, or in the motion of assembling, I think a 500 million euro fund for the growth stage of deep tech companies. And most of the deep tech companies are originated from a university. So the problem is on a system level. And yes, Central and Eastern Europe is behind, even to the average. And all the efforts are focused on the ability of commercialize.
Yes.
So we have outstanding research in Europe, even in Central and Eastern Europe, great researchers, great scientists, great universities. Somehow they don't understand or don't find a way on commercializing.
So what the market need? You means that?
Yeah.
So we are developing a lot of things which is not completely useless, but it's not really needed for the market.
Yeah.
So it's more interesting than useful.
Exactly. And I think part of, like, there are several components of this problem, but I think, well, I'm biased, but my favorite topic is the mindset. And I think we have a cultural heritage in Eastern Europe, which is waiting for somebody else to make things happen.
Yeah.
And when you are in the academic bubble, I think it happens even stronger because the KPIs and the incentives on the research part is publications and very different KPIs than in the
market.
In the market. And I think whereas in the US or in some of the universities that are doing a good job in spin-offs like Cambridge or Oxford or Munich, they have a pattern and a playbook on how to commercialize, but also they have a huge advantage in terms of culture.
Yes.
So I think the base value from where you start to convince anybody, a researcher, that you need to commercialize, it's on a much lower level here. So what it means for us is to assess the team first. And when we assess the team, I think it's usually not so much around the skills first, but more on the mindset. Like, are you open? Are you ready to make money from your work?
Is it possible? You are very strong in a HR field. So is it possible to change this mindset?
Yeah.
Is it age dependent or not? Or
what also what Karoly said, the mindset is a first indeed. So there's a different kind of mindset in Europe than in the US, for instance, and definitely different in Central Eastern Europe, where it's almost commercialization is almost a dirty word in the research world, where
especially in the healthcare.
and that they would rather like to have a publication in nature.com than they would actually bring it to the market. But then there's the other way around, that there are founders that are actually keen to bring it to the market, but then don't have the skill set or the competence, and they feel that they can do it by themselves. But they don't have the ability or the competence to actually bring it to the next step, to actually bring it to the 0 to 1. And this is something that it's a mindset as well on a different note, that they don't want to have somebody above them. So where we see a lot actually that certain founders, they need a CEO on top of them,
Yes.
and not the other way around.
Yeah, I recommend many times when I ask for some consultation that great personality, great scientists, founders, they are not really good CEOs, because it's a completely different mindset and knowledge and skills you need. Usually we ask them to not step back. It's not a back step. It is just changing the roles and not giving the possibility for a business-oriented people to one person to become CEO, and the founder became usually the CMO, the chief medical officer or technology officer. Yeah, and they do what he's the best or she's the best in this field, and the CEO is who is bring to the success and to the market. Yeah, it's a very common problem, but I think it's everywhere. But maybe in Central Eastern Europe, it's even a bigger one. Of course, we didn't have, based on our history, of course, we didn't have the chance. We didn't learn it yet, not how to do it. But I think it is, as you mentioned, it's a big opportunity also for us and for our collaboration, that there are so many good talents and people to pick up, and we can help. Unfortunately, we cannot help everybody, but hopefully we can find the good examples. And I think we already found some of them, a couple of them we are working with. But it will be very interesting that how we can help on all of these entrepreneurs and startup companies. But if you would like just to explain a bit more detailed, what are the different steps for the beginning? For example, when you find a talented person or a good science, a good asset, how you plan on how to build up, and in which step we can help them, just to explain for the people and potential partners for us that what they can expect from us.
I think it should start with how the proof of concept and how it actually, the patent or the IP rights, how are they within the company?
Yes.
Is it with the university? Is it with the founder or with the researcher? What kind of rights does the university have or not?
Yes.
And this is to make it also investable from a commercial perspective as well. And then afterwards, we need to see what are the key competences basically within the core team.
Yes.
And where is the gap? Also to get it to know each other basically, to understand each other as well. What are the key competences and skills within the team, and where is the gap? Like we have also seen in one of the startups that we had, I think last week, where they already saw a gap, but it was not really clearly described.
Yes.
And with our tools actually and our expertise, we really brought it to the service.
And this evaluation is based, is part of your due diligence process, or it is just initial evaluation to see that is a go, no go for you to help?
So it's part of the due diligence, and it has building blocks. And one building block is, I would say, a personality analysis. And once that's done, then on a team level, have these different characters and people work together. What is the where is the gap? There is always a gap. It's okay. It's okay to have a gap, but it's not okay to not know about it. Yes. So basically what we are doing is identifying risks and then mitigating that with an action plan. So that's on the team side, internal motivation, personality types, and how they can work together. And then we take a deep look at the business plan. What are the milestones, and if the milestones are reached, where does it lead us? So is there a clear North Star? Is there a clear goal defined? Is it measurable on time and quality as well? So our goal is basically to help the team and the investor to have the right framework and frame and narrative, and to create a very clear, concise story, so that we have the same understanding, all of us, like the investor, the partners, the founders, that we speak the same language. It's difficult to translate that to documentation, but this is eventually our goal, to have it in writing. And then another experience, I think, most of the teams, they have some kind of KPIs or milestones. That's understandable. But very few of them can define it crystal clear. And it is, in my opinion, and my experience, it's a very dangerous thing to do. Why? Because once they are there and they will write a report that we are proudly presenting to the investor and the market, we have reached milestone 3. And then when you dig into it, then you say, maybe partially you have met the goals, but not fully. And it's a matter of definition. And it's better to invest the time and effort at the beginning to avoid such risks and such debates and arguments later. So one thing we are doing and is somehow to help and at the same time pressure the team to have these goals clearly defined. And it's as easy as it sounds, it's always a bit challenging.
Yeah, indeed. I cannot say better.
Yeah. And how do you see the investment part? Because many founders, they are just complaining that they could reach the exit potential easily. They can build a company very quickly, very easily if they get enough funding. But I don't really think so. Of course, we see that in the recent 1 or 2 years, there is a bit more difficult times, especially for smaller startups, because there are a lot of publications were released recently that the investment amount didn't decrease in the recent years, but the number of companies invested, so the number of invested is much lower, which means that much bigger ticket size, but going to the smaller companies or smaller amount of companies, not small companies. So which means that especially the university spin-off and startup companies, which are in the lower level and the smaller level, not lower, they really became a bit even further away from the access to this venture capitalist. And these companies, most of them, they were relying on the big research grants, which are also just shrinking year to year, especially in Central Eastern Europe, because most of these research grants were coming from the EU funding, which fundings are limited, because all of these countries, they reached that economy level where these funds will decrease according to the initial contracts. So anyway, to be short, this especially spin-off companies, small startup companies, they are always complaining about this lack of access of investments. But yeah, so
they do.
But how do you say that it is the real and the main reason that they cannot move forward, or at least just to start and build up their own company, or it is just a part of it?
I mean, I think it's what we already said. It's to have a proper team together, knowing your gaps, and especially on the roadmap, the North Star, and then how do you get there with clear milestones. I think we've seen a lot that these are not always present, or half, or with multi-interpretable, like how it can be defined, and a lot of investors see as well that they are looking more into smart money.
Yes.
Professional investors that know exactly where they can utilize the funds,
yes.
And not just giving it a bulk load of money and let's see what the burn rate is.
You're hoping the best.
Yes, hoping the best. And money is not free anymore.
Yeah.
It was a few years ago.
Yes.
And I feel that, or we believe actually that with a proper plan, with a proper North Star and roadmap that are very crystal clear on a granular level, I think that's the way to go.
Adding to that, I think most of the founders, and it relates to the earlier topic of commercializing bottlenecks, most of the founders, and I'm not blaming them, but they are not aware of what really matters for an investor and for the market. So oftentimes the discussion starts like, throw everything on the table that you think is valuable in your startup, and then we help you sort out the group of values that actually matter. And usually that's quite surprising for them. In some ways they can be, it's a delicate discussion, yes, because we don't want to offend them,
Yes.
and we don't want to say like it's not valuable. It's just important. I always like to say to them, like, it's better if you get offended with me, I can take it, than to have a harsh discussion with an investor and have that failure. Now, there are two questions seemingly contradictory that we like to apply in helping them to get out of their mindset bubble. One question is, and it does wonders, what would you do if you had all the resources? Money is no issue. Resources are not an issue. What's the best way to go about it? And now then they start to, it's actually not so easy in Eastern Europe to get people dream big.
Yes.
Yeah. So you need to nudge them a little bit. But once they get there, it's very exciting. Then they get a taste of it, and then they draw a big dream on the table. All good. But then comes the next question, which is, what could we achieve out of this big dream, which doesn't require money? And then comes clarity, because, and I like your question, because then they discover that many of those things that they actually want to achieve and is valuable for the market and investors doesn't really cost money.
Yes.
It
Or
costs
not so much.
Yeah, or not so much, not as much as they thought. So on one hand, they are happy with this discovery. On the other hand, it's a bit challenging because they need to be flexible in their mind and twist around the whole story. But that's what we did even last week. and it does wonders how clarity comes. So then we have like two set of goals. One, which we need the proper focus, and we need to act. It's not about, we need planning, but we need to act, doing things, actually getting things done. And that creates traction, which creates value, and company valuation goes up, and also the market perception is increasing.
That's very nice. And as you mentioned, that if the company, with your help or with our help, realize the gaps, we solve these gaps together with the startup companies and the funders, they have a much better chance to get access to fundings. Is it a significant?
Well, by knowing yourself, you definitely know where the gaps are.
Yeah.
And also when you know the team, basically, and you can do an organizational design later, yes, you can get much better understanding of where you are. Maybe you don't need an extra marketing person externally or internally, because you have already that person that actually knows pretty well how it goes.
Okay. But you feel that, or you think, and based on your experience, when you can solve these gaps, you can build this team stronger and with a clear vision, mindset, vision. So they are able to get access easier to the funding.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's not foolproof, but it's definitely
it's a significant higher chance.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's very important because this part is not impossible. They just need a good partner for that.
Yes. Yeah. One thing. So I spent a decade in venture capital, and I sat on the other side of the table where startups were pitching me. And one of my guilty pleasures is to ask other investors how they actually make decisions, and how fast and in how many minutes do you actually decide if you want to invest or not. And we also had this discussion, Peter, with you. And similarly to you, most of the experienced investors, they make decisions very, very quickly. It doesn't mean that the investment process it takes 5 minutes. It's the gut feeling decision, which is always followed by a thorough due diligence. Maybe just to double check on our gut feeling, right? Am I right? Am I right in thinking that this has a huge potential? Let's check it out. And if all puzzles fall into piece, then we are good to go. But what I'm trying to say is that without our preparation, many startups would fail in the first 5 minutes. And it's easier to prove yourself in the second 5 minutes, but you don't get there.
Yeah.
You need to be concise and focused and have a compelling story within the first and second and third minute. Unless you have that, you don't have the second 5 minutes. So that's how harsh the reality is. And I think it's not how to say, it's not very, very difficult to convince an investor, but only if your goal is not to convince the investor. That's not the good goal. The good goal is to be very focused on how you actually create value and return. That's it. If you have a good story on that, then you don't need to convince anybody. So, and because of our strange culture, when I read the news, the startup news, I rarely read about success stories that we have reached, 2 million euros annual recurring revenue, or we have signed up a new partner, or we have developed a new product for a market. What you read is that we got investment.
Yes.
Which
shouldn't be a news at all.
Yeah, or maybe a minor news, or we are happy to introduce our investors and blah, 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 blah. But that shouldn't be the main news. The main news should be we have made a huge impact, improving the lives of millions. That should be the news.
Yeah, and just to add on top of that, because what you're mostly investing in is what we are focusing on is deep tech, so the biotech and medtech. And these founders and researchers are not the typical B2B SaaS guys. These are
Not at all.
not at all, actually. So these are the guys that are actually really good in what they're doing. It's the research behind it, the science behind it, but not so much on how to actually get it over, like how to prepare it for an investor.
It's
in
quite
30
far
seconds.
away. I
Yes.
think it's medical science and the sales.
Yes. So so this is something that we are basically helping them with.
Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for them, and I hope we can prove it. And we have a very good start already, and we can say that we started with 2 portfolio companies, and increasing this number hopefully quickly. And I think so that it is a good opportunity. And I always was thinking about smaller, bigger, disruptive models, and I think there is a need nowadays that we have to change the model, because the current conservative investment and development models is not working at all. First of all, there is a huge technological boom, this with the AI and all these kind of things. Everything is changing now. Efficiency is more important than before, so there is not enough money on the world that we can sponsor all of the companies. So we should find the more efficient way of investment, and not just investment. Investment is just the last piece, but how to build these companies to make more impact. And we are not developing companies just for the IPO and not just for the exit. And after the exit, maybe this company will go to the trash because it's really not interesting. So I think it's very important how we select these companies to make also impact, not just financial impact, but more human impact, especially in the field of healthcare and medtech. And I don't know how you see that, or do you evaluate based on your own personal evaluation when you are talking or you are listening a lot of pitch, you too as well. Do you also focus on the social impact, or the money bring everything?
I mean, I think that's why we are in the biotech and medtech, in the deep tech, basically, not with another B2B CRM. Nothing against CRMs, but that's why we are very enthusiastically and keen to thrive this market, where we think that in Europe, especially, the deep tech is undervalued, and that's why we're helping them basically to get there.
Yeah, especially it's more challenging because the cycle time is very long.
Yes. Longer, yes.
Yeah.
And I think on a personal level, I know we agree on that, but I just want to say it out loud that I think all 3 of us feel that life is just too short to work without a true impact. Yes. So, and when you are doing something which is value driven, it comes across. So when we meet with founders, and if they wouldn't be value driven, it comes out pretty fast. Yep. Because there is a misalignment in how you view the word and what you actually want to achieve. Yes.
It's very artificial. And
it is. And I mean, it's not a charity. We want to make money. There's no shame about it. But we want to do it in a right way. We want to create value, and part of the value is expressed in money. But the main goal, and there is no money without the impact. There's plenty of business opportunities without a valuable impact, in my opinion. Let's leave those for others. Yes. And we should get busy with creating value for our children and for us as well. And I think just one word. I mean, Peter, you are now asking. You are the host, but I also want to again just to address it that your operational model as a clinical researcher offering infrastructure and validation, testing, and all the clinical roadmap together with investment, I think it's already a de-risking and very operational execution-centered model, mitigating risk. And our model is very much on mitigating risk, on the human factor and execution factors. So I think our joint value proposition is very strong, very pragmatic also, which is also a good filter. Again, when we talk to a founder, and if they are only up in the clouds, I think at the end of the first 5 minutes, we know yes, but we believe in execution, actually doing things.
Yes.
So can you join in with this energy? Can you bring in this energy or not? So I think that's a good filter.
Yeah, I also have this. And when in the first discussion, if somebody is just focusing on the money and the ticket size, they're just interested how big is our ticket size. They don't care about the partnering or the offering that we are providing. I already know that it is not
a
my
good
partner.
fit.
Yeah, it's not a good fit, and it will be the first and the last discussion usually. Yeah, but there are so many good startup companies, and unfortunately, I have so many good experience here in Central Eastern Europe and now more and more in Asia. Also, it's interesting that there is a huge capital in Asia, but I just call it dumb money. So there's a lot of dumb money. It's coming from real estate and other areas, which is very important, very good. But this medtech, biotech, it's so sophisticated. It's so difficult. If somebody don't understand why is it 7 years or 8 years, why is so high failure rate, these people, we cannot explain how we can mitigate the risk because they don't understand the risk profile. So on the other hand, there are so many good partners that they are really working in this field, and it's easy and understand. And I have really good experience that if somebody understands our model, what we are promoting, they are very happy for that. And the other side, they don't even understand what we are talking about. so it's a very, very, very big difference, but it's very easy to find out who is our good partner or not. I don't know how you see it in Central Eastern Europe, but I see clearly in the Asian market that majority they don't understand. They are focusing on the easier and simpler investments, and they are doing quite well. But there are a smaller group of partners and investors and stakeholders. They understand. On the other hand, it's very interesting that even governmental agencies, bodies, funds, they understand more and more, and even big universities, they understand even more than the private VC people, and also angel investors understand more than institutional VCs.
Totally, yes.
So there is a fortunately many stakeholders, so we can play on the field that we always find the proper partners. I'm just thinking that how we can scale it up in the future, because it's very difficult. That I think we need always a very clear and a broad oversight, because if we lose this oversight, because we are not able, because our time is also limited, our resources are limited. But if we lose this oversight, I think we become also just one of the old.
One of the many. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. On the other hand, all the companies, even if it's 5, 10, or 15 per year, we can help. Our target is now it's about 30 startup companies in the next few years. I think it's a very good achievement if we can reach it, and based on the progress, I think it's feasible. I think this 30 company will be a very, very good and lucky company.
In all fairness, now that you mentioned that some of the investors themselves don't understand the value creation process. So in all fairness, some of the funders have, they also have bad experiences with investors.
Yes.
And somehow I discovered that even recently we met a startup that I had. First, they were only talking about money. But when we kept on asking, it turned out, no, they can actually reply in a very different way,
Yes.
in a more valuable way. But then first, they also had to learn that we are not those kind of people who are only about ticket sizes and returns. Yes, it's important. It's part of the game. But that's not what should drive the game. That's just a technicality. And I think the investors who are not adding value, like yourself or us, they somehow miseducated the community of founders in a way that I'm an investor. You can only talk to me about what internal rate of returns you can produce me, and when is your exit, and who will acquire your company in 8 years or 10 years. But no questions about the research, the testing, the regulatory, the laboratory capabilities, nothing. So that they quickly learn, they adopt, and they learn that, okay, this is a topic for internal discussions. Let's not bore the investors with that. But so I think it's worth to build in some, how to say, like sanity check questions, like just to discover that maybe they have some PTSD on bad discussions, and then if they do, then just to help them to release the right topics.
Yeah, I just smiled when you said this, but I love when the investors saying, like, when a founder cannot do the sales themselves, then I don't invest in them, which basically eliminates almost all university spin-offs, and that's something that we actually like to address, and we love this kind of deep tech because it's really adding something to the economy and to the world, and that the founder cannot, or the researcher cannot actually do the sales themselves. That's
you can find the people.
We can find the people. We can find the finance guy next to it. We can find the marketing guy. We can find the salesperson next to it.
Talking about that, I was already going to mention earlier that I think one of the bottlenecks, like we talked about culture and how sales activities are so far away from being a researcher, and now you mentioned bringing in the right people, but where do you actually find those people? And again, if you are in the US, it's pretty easy to identify people who have actually been there and done that and built up companies and exited. So it's an entrepreneur in residence is a working model in many universities even, which is a great model. You invite an already exited entrepreneur. He knows the way. So please come and join. You get some equity and let's build this up together. Great. But in Central and Eastern Europe, good luck with that. It's not so easy. So that's why I think that's when our compliant network kicks in, because maybe from time to time we'll find somebody in the region, but more probably we will find somebody in broader Europe that has been there and done that. And we need those people. We need to actively scout for those people. And it's not a project based. I think it should be an ongoing activity, which leads us to building an ecosystem. And if you look at the statistics and the best working models in VC, the best VCs are not alone.
Yes.
They were able to build a community of, and then we can make a long list, co-investors, academic partners, corporate partners, and just entrepreneurs. And you need to feed this system. You need to build it. You need to build up the trust. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes face time. You need to be there, shake hands, have discussions, and that's how you build a community. But once you're able to build this up, this becomes like almost like a living creature that can actually support the whole system. So I think our midterm or long-term goal should be this, and I think we do everything we can on the corporate and the academic partnerships, but also I think we need to accelerate on the entrepreneurs to identify those. And whenever I met with exited entrepreneurs, it's also about the timing. You probably need to meet them after the exit, but not not too
far.
soon after
Yeah,
the
not
exit,
too
because right after the exit, they just want to enjoy. They just want to relax, be with the family, give back some time, because obviously you don't go for holidays, no weekends, nothing. So you need to give back a little bit. But then they start itching. They're like a little bit bored. They're looking for the next gig.
Yeah.
And but if you don't know them, it's too late to contact them
Yeah.
there, because they are already talking to somebody they know.
Yeah.
So that's why we need to, I think, identify the people who are maybe now running a great medtech startup and maybe 1 or 2 or 3 years away from their exit. We need to know them now, so that, just to build a rapport.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
How do you see the potential of a Central European startup or spin-off company compared to the US or Asia? So we know that the US is a completely different world because of the mindset, the education, and the possibilities. But still, most of the big minds, they are arrived to the US from Europe. So still, the European has the most Nobel Prizes, the best results. Science is still one of the best in Europe. EU ecosystem is not working very efficiently. So university startups, they can get some grants, but that's all. It's not really focused and pushed to go to this financial oriented financial market. So they are still focusing on the publication and impact factor and Hirsch index and all this kind of scientific things. In Asia is coming up very quickly, and there is a lot of money. What I see there, they are still not able to use it efficiently, even because they are just learning it. So they are newborn in this field. So Europe has this big history and knowledge and science, but I don't see the efficiency. US has almost everything, but still they are looking for good talents. How we can use this environment to support and to connect these startup companies here in Central Eastern Europe to pick all of the benefits from Asia, from the US and from everywhere. How we can connect them, how we can use these markets, big markets, because this small startup or spin-off company in Central Eastern Europe, they don't even have the network, the chance. Of course, it's very easy to travel. Everybody's going for conferences. But still, to get real connections, it's very difficult. So how we can help them, or how do you see it?
Super challenging, I think, because let's start with the difficult part. And you know it better than I do, that in Asia, the work ethics is on a whole new level.
Yeah.
We can't even grasp it. The service level, the responsibility, completing a task in speed and quality is just you cannot even compare it.
Yeah.
In the US, the capabilities in commercialization is just outstanding, is next to none. So what do we have to offer to the world from Europe? But when you look at it, and I tend to agree with you that many of the outstanding researchers and innovators are from Europe. Yeah. So I think we have something which is difficult to phrase it, but it's something
like a genetics.
Yes, something a very creative mindset, like tackling problems in a very unusual way. That's our strength. Now, how we can turn that into action, that is, I think, we need to somehow learn/import the work ethics of Asia and the commercialization capabilities of the US. When you are running a startup, you don't have time to pick up this culture in a year. There's just no chance. And I think one of the best ways to do that is actually the one that we just mentioned, scouting for entrepreneurs that represent either or the work ethics or the commercialization to merge it into the team. So that could be one, also with partners. But I think even if the research is good, even if there is a good roadmap for commercializing, put that startup from Budapest to Boston or Seoul, and they're gonna suffer if they are left on their own, no matter how good the research is. Why? Because there is this gap between the cultures. You need, if you are in the US, you need to be like 100 times more brave and doer, and believe in that that whatever you do is it costs money, and don't be shy about it. If you are in Asia, then you need to be, you need to up your game in delivering quality services. So I don't expect anybody, and I actually don't believe in that people would change overnight. It's not like that. So I think the realistic scenario is to really scout for partners and entrepreneurs and somehow merge that culture into the team. But I'm very curious on your take, Thijmen, as a...
Yeah, I mean, regarding mindset, you cannot change a nation or even a continent in that sense. And I don't want to even start there. We cannot have that competitive, like almost born competitive edge that the citizens in the US have. But also in the Asian part as well, as Karoly said, it's insane how they work. The work ethic is insane. But I do have a question too, because I read an article about the connection between startups in biotech and medtech and lab space, and they really could see a connection between having more lab space and that it actually will result in more and better qualitative startups in of course in the biotech and medtech scene.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Especially in Central Eastern Europe, there should be a very significant correlation because, because lack of resources is very strong, especially in healthcare and in preclinical and laboratory science. So when I work also in laboratory, I studied in a medical university and I work with a science university in Hungary, and I saw that they were just waiting years to buy equipment or a machine to measure something, just years. So until these years, they spent, even if they have a patent, you lost many years. If you don't even have a patent, maybe somebody in other part of the world, they realize that or get the same results. So it's completely, I can accept and understand that it is a real and significant correlation because they are really very basic things that they are lacking. It's the same in a governmental hospitals, not just in Hungary, in Central Eastern Europe. When they are suffering that after the first week of the month, they already out of the medicine limits of the month. So because there is over. So when you are really suffering from the basic are not available, it's very difficult to make a very high impact science, or even they make the high impact science because it's coming from the brain and it's still you don't need a big lab place. But how you validate and what we are helping them just to bring it to the, especially in GMP environment, so the quality environment, it's really difficult for them because they don't even have the access to it. And also very easy to understand that it is a confirmation that you see the wealthy countries, for example, in Singapore, I see that the government built a lot of laboratories and collabs and other kind of laboratories they are providing, and startup laboratories, they building huge buildings and providing to the startup companies for free or for a very low price. So it is also shows that the lab access is very important for the early stage startup, especially in the biotech medtech field. So I completely agree with this. I can believe that is a big issue and huge correlations. On the other hand, you can also find out that even if you don't have a lab space, but there is a other part of the world you can collaborate, and that's why I think in this partnership I try to highlight these partnerings, because I'm traveling a lot, especially recently, in almost all of the continents, and I see that so many people and groups and companies I met. For example, last week, when a company from Colombia, they doing the same what the other company next day I met in Singapore, another one in Seoul. And I already connected these three companies. They will most probably would never meet. And now after a couple of days, they already achieved, they saved 2 or 3 years in the development, because they just talked together. So this networking is very, very important. And even if we have billions of conferences, I think too many conferences, I think so. There's a very low chance that you find your a good partner for you. And also for me, it was just by accident that I meet with these 3 companies. But this networking, I think, is critical. And with this networking, you can solve these kind of problems as well. For example, if you don't have laboratories, but in Colombia we had the agreement that there is a huge university they build, they have 10,000 of lab space empty, nobody uses it.
Oh, okay.
There is a solution. So there are a lot of opportunities, and you don't need to own. I also made this mistake in my previous life, or not previous, still so my previous experience, that I spent too much effort and money and resources on infrastructures, and I lost everything during COVID. But I realized, based on this very, very expensive lesson, that is no need for that. So I can collaborate now with so many more different stakeholders, and it's much more effective. We are much faster. We scaled up, and I spent much less money. So it's not really important. So you can handle, and it is part of the risk mitigation. If you don't have lab space, you have to find other solution for that. There is other solution for that, for sure.
What happens with, for example, a Hungarian startup that we work with, and let's say the first 2 years difficult but manageable, because they are doing their TR 3, 4, 5. But then when they in 6, 7, and they need to maybe, I like to ask them, like, are you prepared to live in another country if time comes, or it's better to know in advance, because in some cases it's also okay if some of the team members say no, but then we need to know it, because to plan accordingly. But I think from all the teams I've seen, very confident teams from this region, and when I take them to Scandinavia or US or UK for just investor meetings or partner meetings, the mood is already very different. They are not absolutely lose their confidence. Yeah. They behave like I don't know. They are like behind my back, like you talk,
shy,
you talk. Okay, but they are not interested in me, but you, because so I think there is a lot to do in terms of strengthening their narrative and confidence, building it up in the years before they need to actually move out, and or if they are unable to do that, then we need to scout for entrepreneurs early on and have enough time to merge them into the team, because it's also not a good tactic. Let's say we need to go to market in 2027, and then we hire somebody right when we need to go to market. It's already too late. Yeah. You need at least half a year, 1 year to mix the culture, to build up the narrative and all that. So when the time comes, they become efficient.